All right, folks. So we're going to be sitting down and talking some football. We're about a third of the way through the season. So we've got a special guest joining us today, straight from Sports Talk with the King of the Hill, Ryan Hill. We've got Ryan Hill. Ryan, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing fantastic, Kyle. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. We were just saying it's Monday night, so we got the Bills Chiefs in the background right now. We haven't started kickoff for Cardinals Cowboys there. Do you have any hot take predictions for Cardinals Cowboys before we get started?
It's going to be interesting to see how the Cowboys are going to finally respond with Andy Dalton starting at quarterback now. I really love this Cardinals team, though. I love the pairing of DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Once I seen that trade go through in the offseason, I thought that was just going to click. And it has so far, and they've done really well. So I like the Cardinals tonight, and I would say whatever the over-under is, take the over because that thing is going to be a high-scoring affair tonight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Cowboys' defense there is just Swiss cheese at this point. So we'll see if the Red Rifle can keep up as far as actually putting points up on the board. But I agree. It's going to be a high-scoring affair for sure, no matter who comes out on top.
It's definitely going to be better than this one we're watching now.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a rain bowl going on in Buffalo right now. That's not helping things either.
Not at all. Josh Allen's not able to move the ball, but they're getting right back in it.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to be talking all about predictions, right? So essentially one game away from being 6 weeks throughout the season so far. So we've sort of got a feel for, the looks of some of these teams and, early breakout candidates and all of that good stuff as well too. So we're going to be looking into our crystal balls, trying to make some predictions based on, how we see the rest of the season going here. Who knows, maybe even 3 weeks from now, an injury or two happens and these predictions look like absolute crap. But hey, we're going to throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
The NFL, you just never know anymore.
Yeah. So, why don't we start with which team has been the most disappointing to start the season? So you're our guest. I'll let you go first, but I've got one team who really stands out in my mind here.
I got two, and I was really debating it beforehand as who I really thought was the worst team or the most disappointment of the season so far. First, I'd love to just throw out the whole NFC East is terrible. I think that whole division is a dumpster fire. None of those teams deserve to hold that playoff spot. But I'll go with Dallas. I think Dallas, there was a lot of promise coming into this year. I know the injury that just happened to Dak, but that was last week, and they were still able to hold on and get that win. But before that, the only win that they had going into that week was when the Falcons completely just melted down and let them come back because they didn't know how to jump on an onside kick. This defense, as we talked about, is Swiss cheese. It is awful. Anybody can put up points. The Cleveland Browns put up 49 points against this team. The Cleveland Browns, when is the last time we could ever say the Cleveland Browns have scored really more than 30 in a game?
Yeah.
And here they go and put up 49 over this defense. It's just been a really rough year. I don't understand why they don't feed the ball to Zeke.
Yeah.
Just hand it off, and he's going to take care of it. Dak was really lighting it up. My heart goes out to Dak. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I really love Dak Prescott. I think he's a great quarterback, but to see that injury, that really hurt.
Yeah. Well, Zeke just went out and got the friggin' belly tattoo and everything that says feed me. You'd think they would be feeding him the ball a little bit more.
You think so? They need to give him the ball at least 20, 25 times a game or more.
Yeah.
Well, if they want to win. I think going into it before this season, they were all maybe one loss when he gets the ball 20, 25 plus times a game. So there's your formula to win the game. We thought Jason Garrett was the issue. Mike McCarthy's having the same issues.
Yeah.
So maybe Jason Garrett wasn't the issue, but we'll see. But they are definitely a big disappointment right now. I know a lot of Cowboys fans, and they had high hopes coming in this season. But every year is supposed to be their year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No kidding. Well, I've got sort of two here, one and a half really. But, as an Eagles fan, it sort of brings me a little bit of joy to see the Cowboys suffering like this. Obviously, you don't like to see Dak going out and getting injured, right? But just
especially an injury like he had.
Exactly. Out for the year and, especially the numbers he was putting up. So I don't like that kind of misery. I do like the misery of the fact just that aside from failing to jump on, a ball right in front of them, they should be winless up to this point, really.
Exactly.
But, as an Eagles fan, personally, the team I'm most disappointed with is the Eagles themselves.
Right.
you already said it, what a dumpster fire the NFC East is. So the only reason I'm not giving them the official title of the most disappointing team thus far is the fact that as bad as they are, they somehow still have a pathway to the playoffs just because it's probably going to be, a 6 or a 7 win team who comes out
It's
of
sad.
there.
And honestly, I think the Eagles will win this division. Now with Dak out, I love their chances. They have more injuries than Dallas, and they're still very competitive. Like they made that game yesterday against Baltimore. They were a 2-point conversion away from sending that game to overtime and possibly winning it.
Yeah. Oh, I've absolutely no read on this team from one week to another. Their defense absolutely infuriates me because it's the most common sense thing in the world. It's okay. This one person continues to burn us play after play after play after play. Why don't we maybe pay a little attention to him? But it's no, let's let George Kittle, fresh off, his injury, absolutely torch us. No one else is doing anything, but Kittle's going off for 700 yards and all these touchdowns against us. You'd think it would clue in eventually. Apparently it didn't, but hey, I guess Jim Schwartz is, got some sort of incriminating photos or something that he hasn't been let go yet. But the real team that I'm most disappointed in this year, who I think deserves the title, is the Minnesota Vikings. And here's why, right? They're 1-5. Kirk Cousins looks absolutely lost out there. He's throwing lame, not just interceptions, but like lame duck interceptions that are nowhere even near their intended target. You've got Hook, who's now injured, who knows how long. Hopefully he's coming back shortly for Minnesota's sake. But
after this bye week.
Yeah, if he's on the shelf for an extended period of time, good Lord.
Because Madison did not step in and look good at all yesterday for them.
He
was a high waiver pick on the fantasy wires, and he left a dud out there for a lot of people who reached out there and took him.
Yeah. And we're not exactly talking about, the Steelers, of the 70s steel curtains or anything here. They were playing Atlanta, right? Like not exactly known as a defensive team here.
Everybody scores on Atlanta.
Yeah, literally. But so. I mean, especially going from last year, not only a playoff team, but they beat the Saints and actually moved on to the divisional round, right? So to go from that to where they are now, where if this sort of, unless they completely right the ship here, we're looking at probably going to a, top 10 pick in the draft coming up here as a result. And, they're probably going to end up looking at possibly blowing up that team, depending on sort of how a few things shape up for them, right? Because they don't have a lot of options left. And the Vikings, being 1-5 in a division where the Bears are 5-1, the Packers are 4-1. You're not winning the division, trying to get a wild card when even the NFC West is looking like, any one of those teams could come out of that and sneak into the playoffs there.
Yeah, after they added that extra playoff spot, I mean, anybody in that division or all four could possibly make a run at it.
Well, absolutely, right? And so you're looking at a fall from grace from the playoffs to probably a top 10 pick, unless they can right the ship here. And at that, if they are getting that kind of record, you're probably looking at more of a team blow up than anything else, right? It's not just going to be let's draft this one player and, reload and away we go. It's probably going to be head coach is gone, coordinators changed over, Kirk Cousins is probably gone. Like the only one they probably hold on to is Dalvin Cook.
and maybe an Adam Thielen. That's about it. And they got a bright future there in Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's been the shining spot besides a Dalvin Cook so far this season. I mean, they're really missing Stephon Diggs. I mean, we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, who would have thought he was the linchpin to that entire offense there, eh?
After the Minnesota Miracle, I mean. But yeah, they've really struggled out the gate this season. If I was them, I'd just go ahead and put it in full tank mode, and it's time to draft a quarterback this next draft to replace Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins is not the answer for this team at all.
Yeah. So on the flip side of the coin there, let's maybe move on to the most surprising team of the year so far. And, there's a case to be made that the Bears are possibly one of the most surprising teams, sitting at 5-1. They're atop of the NFC North. And, but at the same time, I've always sort of had the sense that, okay, they've got an elite defense. They're a pretty well-coached team. all they were missing is, one Mitch Trubinsky benching away from being relevant
Exactly.
anyways. So I thought about going with them. I ultimately didn't, though. So the team I ended up picking as the most surprising team thus far is the Raiders, just in the sense that they're 3-2. And it's not like they've been playing, the Jets and the Giants of the world here, right? Their first
Right.
5 games, what do they got? They had Panthers, Saints, Pats, Bills, and Chiefs. If you had to set at
Not
the
an easy
beginning,
schedule.
no, if you had to set at the beginning of the year that the Raiders would have a winning record through 5 weeks playing those 5 teams, I probably would have laughed at you, right?
Yeah, and especially when you're talking about, mentioned they played the Chiefs and they were the only team to be able to beat the Chiefs in a very long time. I mean, the Chiefs looking like a very strong contender to run it back again, and they really found a way to slow Mahomes down and get that win. I mean, that was a huge win on their resume, and that puts them right in the running for a playoff spot, possibly even running with the Chiefs here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I kind of had them pegged as that team who was one season away from sort of taking that next step. And if you had told me next year they were making a deep playoff run, would have been all for it. This year, I kind of had them as, maybe a 500 team, maybe, 9-7 type thing. But, to say that they're looking like probably one of the stronger teams in the AFC through 5 weeks, that was a little bit surprising to me there. But
very impressive considering the amount of teams, the quality of teams that they have played so far this season. So I can completely agree with the Las Vegas Raiders here. They're making that new stadium, holding it up and making it proud so far. I mean, they defeated the Saints their first game there. Even though they didn't have Michael Thomas, I mean, that's still an impressive win to go in there and take down the New Orleans Saints, who still could easily.
yeah. I mean, they're holding down the Death Star there. You got Jacobs looking like possibly a top 5 back in the league right now, if you're looking around as far as just pure production. And I don't know what Derek Carr did in his offseason there, but he's looking like a completely new quarterback. He's actually taking care of the football. He's only got like one pick on the year. He's throwing for yardage, and
Henry Ruggs the third's making him look good. I mean,
well,
I really love that pick when they took him, though.
Yeah.
I thought that was really going to open it up, because you got Kansas City, who has Tyreek Hill, who's going to just open the field up downfield, and now they got their own Tyreek Hill here, and that division really needed it.
Yeah. So they're sort of my pick there. Which team surprised you so far in this early part of the season?
Well, if we're going to stay away from the Chicago Bears, because that would have been the easy pick at 5-1, I mean, they did start 3-0 with Mitchell Trubisky, even though he got benched. I mean, they were 3-0 with him in there, and they were like, we're done. We're going to go ahead and take him out. But this team's a 500 team, and they still surprise me. I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. I really like what they've done here with Teddy Bridgewater. This team, I mean, they brought in Robbie Anderson. They got DJ Moore. Even with Christian McCaffrey going down with the injury, Mike Davis, former Chicago Bear, has just stepped in and filled into that role just like Christian McCaffrey would. So, I mean, they really see no drop-off with Mike Davis in there. He's still putting up all the big numbers, running it and catching it. So I think Teddy Bridgewater, he's got a really good grasp on that team, and it's working for him now. So, I mean, if they can only get Christian McCaffrey back, the sky's the limit for this team. They're in a really tough division, though, because while we'll look at Atlanta and laugh at their record, Atlanta's a really good football team. They cannot hold on to a lead. I mean, they blew 2 games there back-to-back weeks where they could easily be 3-2 right now.
Yeah.
So Atlanta's no slouch. The Saints are still the front runner, in my opinion, to win that division, even though Tampa Bay looked really strong yesterday against Green Bay. I want to see more, especially in the head-to-head rematch with New Orleans. So they're in a tough division, and to be sitting at 3-3 right now, I consider that a really strong start for Carolina, with everybody thinking they're going to be a top 5 pick in the draft next year. So they've really right the ship. Besides Chicago, I love what Carolina is doing down there. Teddy Bridgewater is running. That he looked great last year in New Orleans, replacing Drew Brees for those few games, and not too shabby right now in Carolina.
Yeah, no, he's definitely rewarding that contract they gave him in the offseason there for sure. And Rule has done a phenomenal job just in, really
Yeah, first season
really,
head
really
coach
putting his
also.
imprint on such a team in such a short amount of time, right? You look at some of the other coaches, which we'll get to them in a minute there, but some of the other coaches that have been there with 2-3 seasons now that are still just getting to the point where you can start to see some of their offensive and defensive philosophies coming through. So the job he's done there is really impressive. I agree.
Yeah, I wasn't too sold on that signing when they signed him in the offseason, but he's really impressed me, and this team as a whole has really shown that they got a bright future, and Teddy Bridgewater could lead them to that future, even though I did not believe so going into it. So we're going to see. I'm liking them right now. I'm buying their stock.
Yeah. Again, we'll see how well these predictions hold up there, but right
they could
now,
lose every single game the rest of the season and then just make me look like an idiot right here.
So I mean, if we're going to be making bold predictions, we might as well, 6 weeks. We clearly know what's going to happen here. So fill in the blank here. Blank will win the Super Bowl this year.
I think Kansas City looks like the great team to actually run it back. They had the hiccup last week against the Las Vegas Raiders. That's a divisional game. I don't care what people say. When it comes to division games, you play that team multiple times each year. They're going to know they're going to have your number more so than anybody else. And they just came off that tough game against New England where Bill Belichick, he's got something figured out to slow Patrick Mahomes down. He might not have slowed him down the whole game, but to hold that team to 6 points, and Vegas was able to sit back at home and watch that game and learn some ways to stop Patrick Mahomes, and they really put it together the last outing. So I think Kansas City's still a great team to go on and win this Super Bowl. Another team would be the Seattle Seahawks. I think that could be our Super Bowl right now. I really love Russell Wilson and what they've done. They sure up that defense. That team right there is going to be hard to beat. But if I had to pick today, I'm going Kansas City as a repeat.
Yeah. No, it's hard to argue with the defending champs, especially, with some of the numbers and whatnot that they're putting up there. And it's just
as they just improved 5-1 on the season now.
Yeah. So the rainbow is finally over there. But I mean, I 100% agree. If I had a gun to my head, I probably would be hard pressed to bet against the Chiefs there. I went in a slightly different direction, though. I'm going to say that the Super Bowl winner this year is going to be the Tennessee Titans, and for the simple fact that they're 5-0. I made this prediction and wrote it all down before it was announced that their starting left tackle is out for the year with a torn ACL, which is really going to hurt them. But even still, I thought about switching it. I said, you know what, screw it. I had it written down last night. I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to stick with the Titans. They're 5-0 already. They've got some tough games coming up, but you look at their schedule from week 13 onwards: Cleveland, Jacksonville, Detroit, Green Bay, Houston. Right? The only tough game in there is Green Bay and maybe Houston, just because it's a divisional game. But probably at that point in the year, Houston's probably benching most of their starters because it's the last week of the year. And
if they have starters left after Bill O'Brien cleared the house,
that could be its own podcast episode in and of itself there, the saga of Bill O'Brien in Houston there. But
I mean, Tannehill's looking like an MVP out here too. I mean, he's career year, really, after winning comeback player of the year last year. He's following that up and looking like an MVP right now too.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry went over 200 yards on the ground yesterday. There's your key to success also. If you want Ryan Tannehill to look great, if Derrick Henry's getting 200 yards a game, you're not beating Tennessee.
Yeah. No, and that's just it, right? They don't outside of, Tannehill is looking great. I wouldn't call him a superstar or anything, but Derrick Henry, obviously superstar, top 5 back in the league, unquestioned about that. But how they're getting it done just sort of reminds me a little bit of Kansas City. It's not just one person who's beating you. It's like every week it's someone different, whether it's, Brown, Humphreys, Davis, Smith, Fisker had a huge game, the backup tight end there, right? So they're just getting it done in different ways. And, I think sort of the wild card for me here is just Mike Vrabel is doing such a good job of knowing that team's strengths and its weaknesses. And, he knows that they're not going to win a lot of ball games if Ryan Tannehill has to throw 50 passes in a game. They know exactly what you were just saying about how the Dallas Cowboys need to feed Zeke. He's actually putting that into place with Derrick Henry there.
He's learned from Bill Belichick when he coached under him and played for Bill.
Oh,
He's
for
he's
sure.
learned the model to go out there and win games, and he's doing exactly what he needs to. And Mike Vrabel is doing a fantastic job at coaching this Tennessee Titans team.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you look back to even to last year, he's finding loopholes in all these rules, whether it was the consecutive delay of
Oh,
game penalties he was taking.
oh man, that hurt
Yes.
me.
Yeah. Yesterday, I mean, another brilliant move there by purposely sending out a 12th man onto the field to take the penalty to stop the clock, to save the timeout. And they ended up tying the game with 4 seconds left using that last timeout. So, I mean, he knows his squad really well. Hopefully their injuries are sort of done. And I mean, the Eagles sort of proved that, you can overcome a certain number of injuries. If they start
Right.
piling up to really key players, then it's tough to overcome that. But assuming they stay healthy, and looking at their schedule and the fact they've already got 5 wins in the bank, they're probably looking at home field advantage. Who knows what that'll actually look like by the time playoffs roll around, whether fans
Yeah,
will
we're talking a bubble, so
yeah, or bubble, or what the heck it means there. But the fact is that they're probably going to have double-digit wins easily,
oh,
and
easily.
they're looking like a real solid team at this point.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, they play in a very rather easy division. Also, I mean, Jacksonville's they're hit or miss. Is Gardner Minshew the king gonna show up, or is he gonna be a dud and do nothing the next week? You just can't really get a real feel on Gardner Minshew. The Colts, Philip Rivers isn't the answer. The guy just looks old out there. Father Time's catching up with him. I like the idea of bringing him in there, but I don't believe in him. And then we got Houston here, who's just a dumpster fires themselves. Now, they've looked great after finally firing Bill O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
Could easily be 2-0 after the firing, but Tennessee is just that good.
Well,
And
I mean,
Vrabel is a mini Bill Belichick right now, in my opinion.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can tell he's from that coaching tree. But I mean, as to Philip Rivers, anyone would be looking old and tired out there after you're chasing around 9 kids at home for as many years as he did.
Exactly. He's
Oh,
almost there, able to fill a whole football team out there.
yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer on the paternity test there. Holy. All right.
Exactly.
So, I mean, let's go from the penthouse to the outhouse here. And, what our predictions are of who's going to be making that number 1 overall selection next year at the end of the year there. And I don't want to steal your thunder here, but you'll probably have the exact same answer as me.
I think we're going to have the same answer here.
ETS, Jets.
Jets. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Adam Gase is the definition of a dumpster fire. Everything from the moment they even introduced him, where with all the memes going around of the eyes he was making, and like just the weird faces, and just like the standoffish personality when he hasn't really done anything yet. Like he's day 1 on the job. He's fighting with assistant coaches. He's feuding with players. Like unmitigated disaster of a
He's not even scoring against the Miami Dolphins. Like the first shutout of the year happened and you got shut out by the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Fitz magic. Just, oh my God. I just don't even know where to begin with them, right? Like they have no playmakers on offense. They just traded Bell. I mean,
the only one that they had a chance at being a playmaker is gone.
Yeah.
Their best receiver is Jamison Crowder.
Yeah. The only sort of roadmap to relevance for even the next couple of years would be whether it's trade deadline or off season, you trade Sam Darnold, you take Trevor Lawrence first overall, you hit reboot, you accumulate draft picks, and sort of fire Adam Gase, clear house, get a new coach in there.
How he hasn't been fired yet is amazing to me.
Oh.
How he wasn't the first head coach fired this year is just baffling.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point, they're probably, if there was a sexy head coaching name out there on the market, he'd probably be gone already.
Maybe they feel like this is their only way to actually go 0-16. So keep him in there, and we're going to go 0-16 and solidify that number 1 pick. We put anybody else in there, we might start winning a game here or there, and we don't want that.
Yeah, that's just it, right? Like I legitimately think they'll probably hold on to him till like week 13 or something, can him, put in whether it's their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, someone on that coaching staff, put them in an interim position, get a look at them, and then start the actual interview process in the off season there, right?
Maybe they can get lucky and talk Dabo Sweeney and Trevor Lawrence becoming a package deal, and they just get that whole thing and hit a home run.
There you go. Could happen. Could happen. But
Very well
I
could
mean,
happen.
the scary part, if you're a Jets fan, is even if you sell off Darnold, you get some high draft picks, blah, 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 complete teardown, Gase is gone, you get an awesome head coach. With the Jets, I still get a feeling they're going to somehow screw it up and get the number one pick and then go, you know what? We actually, we're going to
We
grab
don't
an
want you.
offensive lineman or something here, right? Like, I'm
Right.
still not even 100% confident that they won't screw up the number one overall pick.
Yeah, they're starting to turn into the Cleveland Browns here. That's the
Yeah.
laughing stock of the NFL here, and that's not something you want.
Yeah.
Even if they do get Trevor Lawrence, which I think is the number one overall pick by far, it's gonna be a couple seasons. They have no protection for that on that offensive line. They got no weapons to get the ball to. They've traded away their best player on defense in Jamal Adams, and now they got nothing there to stop anybody from scoring against them. So like every single thing, they need every position.
Yeah.
It's just hands down. This team is awful top to bottom. I don't know if Sam Darnold's this bad or if it's just the Jets team is this bad. So
Well, I mean,
we're gonna find out next year.
you even just look at the body language on the sidelines there for the players. Like they literally look like Adam Gase has captured their loved ones and is holding them hostage somewhere. And the only reason that they showed up is, that he said, if
To
you
get
don't
that
play,
paycheck.
nothing can happen to them, right? Like it looks like no one wants to be there. No, it's not even that like, oh, I'm playing for a contract. I'm playing to show off, to get a job or a raise or hopefully get traded to another team there. Like people just don't even look like they want to be there.
No, I wouldn't want to be there. I don't care what you're offering me. I don't want to be there.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, that was a pretty open and shut one there. That's already probably too much time talking about the Jets in this season.
If they don't get the number one pick, something went wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They'll somehow probably jet it up and, end up winning one game late in the season and end up with a second overall pick or something. But,
Right.
I mean, we're 6 weeks in. Some teams have had a bye week. Some teams have had a COVID bye week there, but most of the teams have had, 5 or 6 games at this point there. So who is your third of the season MVP at this point?
Quarterback Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
This man deserves some respect finally. Crazy to think that he's not had a single MVP vote throughout his entire career, and he is playing lights out. And he has to because, as we mentioned earlier, his defense is terrible. They can't stop anybody from scoring. I mean, I'm a Patriots fan here, and they let Cam Newton and the Patriots offense look like they were the best offense out there. I mean, and we know how bad that offense is right now. So Russell Wilson's out there. He's got 1,285 yards on the season to 16 touchdowns and 2 picks. So, I mean, hands down, this guy's out here balling, and he's keep winning games single-handedly for this team. Him and DK Metcalf, they got an amazing connection already. Tyler Lockett, they've had that connection, but him and Metcalf right now is just clicking.
Yeah.
It's the thing of beauty to see. Total QBR of 136.7. I mean, as close to perfection as you can almost get here.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I saw a stat somewhere the other day where it was something along the lines of Russell Wilson would have to throw 30 consecutive interceptions in order to have, like, even within 5 points of where Carson Wentz's QBR is right now, and that made me sick to my stomach there for a little bit.
Oh, I believe it.
Once I finally got over that, I came to the same conclusion as you, right? It's got to be Russ. Numbers aside, what you have to sort of keep in mind here is whether it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever it is when it comes to MVP voting, it's not just the numbers you put up. It's like you say, it's that narrative, right? And Chris Collins
Right.
kind of sprinkled in the seeds of that narrative the other night there when he said, he's never had that even a single MVP vote before. They've got the whole, let Russ cook campaign going on right now, and he's backing it up with the numbers. So assuming he stays healthy, assuming, the Seahawks continue to do what they're doing, and they don't have to go undefeated here or anything.
No.
But even if they didn't win the division but still made the playoffs, I think it's just such a buzzsaw in that NFC West there that, like you say, without having an elite defense, what he's doing out there week in, week out, he's got to be the MVP, right?
Yeah, it's very impressive. The only other people that was close at this time would have been Aaron Rodgers, and he had his first bad game of the season yesterday. We've seen Josh Allen the last 2 games now really go out there and lay a dud. So, I mean, he was up there an MVP candidate for him. Lamar Jackson also really hasn't had those jump off numbers right now that we've seen last season. So right now, I mean, I don't know how it can be anybody other than Russell Wilson. I think that he's really going out there and proving that he is possibly one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a betting man, you probably go out there and check what the odds are on Patrick Mahomes there and just see, okay, is everyone so on Russ that, Mahomes' odds have gone through the roof here, and throw a 20
Exactly.
spot or something on him there? Because, it could be that, maybe teams sort of figure out and start taking some weapons away. And all right, it's, a whole lot of heaves and prayers and downfield attacks. And maybe they start playing some more soft coverage, and that affects Russ's numbers there. And then you get a late season push by Patrick Mahomes, and you never want to count him out. But like you say,
it's very possible.
Yeah, I don't see Jackson repeating, right? He's not looked the same. I think teams have sort of keyed in on a few deficiencies there.
Yeah, usually it seems like with Lamar, like he's a great talent. I didn't believe in him coming into the league, and I've noticed that if a team plays him twice, a good team, not just an average team or a below average team like the Bengals, but a good team plays him twice, they usually have him figured out, and they can shut him down the next time they play him.
Yeah.
So plus, he's banged up a little bit. He's got that knee injury, and I think he was sick this past week. So he hasn't been spectacular this year. But, I mean, game managing and winning games, that's what matters at the end of the day for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the Ravens will be in good shape, but I don't think he'll have the offensive numbers to warrant the back-to-back MVPs there. So, I mean, on the other side of the ball, defensive MVP is wide open this year. There doesn't seem to be a runaway winner right now there. I mean,
not yet.
Obviously, it's Aaron Donald is a perennial candidate to go out there and win it, and lead the league in sacks and fifth in the league in tackles for loss and a couple strip sacks and all that to his name already. He's being double teamed every single time. But again, just going back to sort of the narrative thing there, it's okay, do we want to give him his third award, or are we looking at maybe giving it to someone else? Someone who I sort of identify that's nipping at his heels there, and his team is playing pretty well, except for this weekend when they ran into the Steelers there, is Myles Garrett for the Browns there. If by some miracle the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs this year, and Garrett continues to sort of, doesn't even need to necessarily eclipse the numbers Donald's putting up there, but just sort of even keeps pace with him, I can see sort of the voters leaning his way, and all right, let's give the kid his first, as opposed to handing it out to, a JJ Watt or an Aaron Donald who's got just a litany of hardware in their homes there.
Right. I do like that pick of Myles Garrett. I didn't really even look his way when I was looking at this. Aaron Donald just stood out to me, and I was like, this guy, I mean, he gets the double teams, sometimes triple teams, and for him to be able to still lead the league in sacks, that's impressive, and everything that he's done. But yeah, Myles Garrett is a great option. I mean, after everything he went through last year, he's really out to try and prove himself and prove that his character isn't what we seen last year in that Pittsburgh game. And besides this dud that they literally went out and laid against Pittsburgh, I mean, Myles Garrett's really looked well, really looked great, honestly. So Myles Garrett could easily be the defensive player of the year, especially if Cleveland can luck their way into making the playoffs this season. They just got to figure out how to beat those good teams. And even though they lost 38-7 yesterday, the issue is not on the defensive side with Myles Garrett. I mean, they got to figure out that offense. And that goes back to like Dallas, like we said earlier, give 49 points to a team who can't score 7 against Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like Baker Mayfield's not the answer in Cleveland, in my opinion. Odell should ask for a trade as soon as he can. And I love Cleveland. I grew up in a Cleveland Browns household, and I'd love to see this team actually turn it around and succeed. So being 4-2 right now is impressive for Cleveland, but Myles Garrett's their lone bright spot right now, besides with Nick Chubb now going out to injury. And so I like the pick of Myles Garrett. Right now I'm still going to give it to Aaron Darnold, but Myles Garrett right there, if that team can keep winning and make the playoffs, could easily win this.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's going to be contingent on, are the Browns going to brown and all of a sudden they finish the year 4-12, or are they actually going to compete for the playoff spot, right? Because I think they're going to
beat the teams that they're projected to beat, but when they play a Pittsburgh and they play a Baltimore, we're going to see an egg go up there, and they don't know how to win those games. They haven't been there yet. This isn't a team that's got that winning mentality in them yet, and they got to figure that out. I don't know if Baker's the one that's going to lead them to that.
Yeah. So let's continue with the defensive side here, but let's go defensive rookie of the year. So we've had a few players sort of already step in and make big impacts, but who's turned to your head as far as possibly taking home some hardware at the end of the year?
Being a Buckeye fan, I really wanted to go with Chase Young, and I think that he's had a great start to the season. That groin injury really set him back, so I'm going to take a step back and not go with Chase Young. I'm going to go with Patrick Queen, linebacker out of Baltimore from LSU. He's got 44 total tackles on the season already, with 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, this man's all over the field. Wherever the ball's at, he's flying to the ball and making the play every single time. 33 of those tackles are solo tackles too. Only 12 are assisted. So, I mean, Patrick Queen has really stepped out here, and he's looked rather impressive. That's who I wanted the Patriots to draft, and they traded out of the first round, and we missed out on a very great talent, especially with all the linebackers here.
Yeah.
Yes. All the talent that we had opt out with COVID-related issues this year, we could have easily loved to seen Patrick Queen running all over the field.
Yeah.
So it hurts to see it happening, but I've been really impressed with Patrick Queen so far this season.
Yeah, it's got to sting a little bit more too that it's Baltimore that went out and picked him up there too, right?
Exactly.
So AFC rival, and he's exactly who I had as well too. You know, he's looking like a 10-year veteran out there in year one. He's already got a defensive touchdown. He's all over the field, right? And even on the plays where he's not making the tackle, he's in either perfect coverage, right, or he's pressuring the quarterback and making, you know, whether it's a knockdown after the throw, or he's making his presence felt no matter where he is out there on the field.
He just adapts to that ball. Wherever that ball's at, Patrick Queen is there. And I really liked him last year at LSU. I mean, I was really high on this guy. Like I said, I wanted my team to take him in the first round, and I've been impressed with him. Just hurts that I don't get to see him in a Patriots uniform.
Oh, they had to be thrilled that he fell to them at 28th overall there. They were probably pinching themselves because he's the exact type of player, you know,
Yes.
in the mold of that Suggs, that Ray Lewis, that, you know, I'm not saying he's at their level.
I mean, they take a linebacker and they just plug it. He could easily be on that level by the end of his career. I mean, he's very impressive through the first 6 weeks. Like I said, the only other guy I could go with right now would be a Chase Young. The groin injury really hurt him. He's also drawing those double teams like Aaron Donald does, and he's still getting in there making all these plays. So Chase Young, if he could still easily get back in this mix, getting healthy. He was back on the field this week, so that's good to see.
Yeah. All right. So offensive rookie of the year. I mean, they're probably going to give it to Joe Burrow just because they put such a premium on the quarterback position. So if I had a gun to my head and I had to bet on who's going to win it, I would
right.
Who I actually think is through 6 games the rookie of the year, though, would be Justin Jefferson for the Vikings there. He is one of the tightest route runners, the speed off,
very impressive,
catching the ball there. He's looking like the only real legitimate weapon out there for the Vikings. He's already got 500 plus yards through 6 weeks, 3 scores already. And my friends and I, we were hosting a live Zoom when it was the draft, and all leading up to the draft, I knew that where the Eagles were picking, it was outside of that, you know, Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb sort of range there, Jerry Jeudy range.
Right.
So we weren't getting one of sort of the big 3, but I kept saying again and again and again, not only the numbers that he put up at LSU, but just the fact that he has an outside chance at, before ever stepping onto the field, his skill set possibly being one of the best out of them there. And when he fell,
I thought that he could easily be the best receiver.
Absolutely. And when he fell to them at that pick, I was jumping up. I was like, yes, Justin Jefferson, here we go. And then when they announced Rager at that pick, you could have heard a pin drop in that group Zoom call there, because no one could believe it.
I don't know.
I
couldn't believe it either. I thought, and look where Rager's gotten you so far. I mean,
oh my God, it absolutely just kills me, right? Every single week I send a text to any of my friends who, you know, follow football religiously, and I'm just like, this is just another example of why I really wish we had drafted Justin Jefferson here. You know, just had 2 touchdowns.
I mean, yesterday was very impressive. He had 9 catches for 160 yards and 2 scores. I mean, he got me 40 points in fantasy, so
yeah,
I had him in there and I had him start, and
Yeah, yeah. No, I had him starting too there, and he's looked every bit the part of that first round number one bona fide wide receiver.
He
And I
was.
have no idea why they decided to go, especially with the problems that the Eagles have had over the years with the speedy wide receivers trying to
They
keep them.
don't have any.
Deshaun Jackson is constantly hurt. Can't get him on the field, right? Friggin' Godwin or Goodwin.
Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, who just came over from the 49ers that opted out. Marquise Goodwin there.
Marquis. Yeah, Goodwin. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, he opted out, but even in before he opted out, he got injured in the offseason. It's like, okay, enough of these band-aid speed guys here. Let's get someone who's actually on the field.
And now
And
tied in wise, Zach Ertz is out for you guys the next 3 to 4 weeks too. So I mean, it's like Carson Wentz was the only healthy guy out there on the field, and I don't know how much longer he can stay healthy for running for his life.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I'm ready to start sending some of our CFL players down there and just saying, just speed up, like you're a healthy body. Just throw on the midnight green and hope for the best out there. But
And to think you're only like half a game out of first place and being in the playoffs.
yeah, we are simultaneously a top 5 draft pick and also a division winner at this point. So I don't know what
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, who did you have for offensive rookie of the year?
I love the Justin Jefferson, and I do believe that they're going to find a way to give it to Joe Burrow. But there's another quarterback out there that I think's been more impressive than Joe Burrow, and I'm going to go Justin Herbert from the Chargers. I think that he got thrown into the fire against the defending Super Bowl champions. He didn't find out until 2 minutes before the game that he was going to be even starting, and he went out there and looked like he belonged. Like maybe he didn't have a chance for his nerves to set in, but I mean, he really just went out there, stepped on the field, and took it over like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I was the best quarterback in the game. He's got 931 yards and 5 touchdowns through his first, I think he's played 4 games so far. So he's got a game less than Burrow, and he's looked just as impressive, if not more impressive than Burrow. And like Burrow might, in my opinion, has a little bit better receivers because you got Keenan Allen out there. Mike Williams, he's there. He can make those plays, and he's really starting to come into his own. But I think Justin Herbert's making him look better. And he's got that offense clicking. He did lose Austin Eckler for a few weeks now. So I really like what I've seen out of him. Justin Herbert has proven that he could possibly be the best quarterback out of this last draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially on the deep balls, the touch that he's had on some of those has been unbelievable. Like he's looking like Rodgers back in his prime there as far as the deep balls. And it really has been impressive to see him come in there, especially as you say, on short notice there. And what a freak accident that was there with the team doctor taking out
Exactly.
Tyrod. You never like to see people sort of lose their starting jobs on something that wasn't performance related or
Right.
even their control. But at the same time, whether it was, whatever it was, week 2 or 3 or week 8 or 9, we all knew he was coming in at some.
Justin Herbert was the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was going to take over. You really just feel for Tyrod. I mean, he lost his job in Buffalo, or he decided to take off and go to Cleveland. Got 2 games into there, got benched for Baker, and Baker went out there and won the game against the Jets that really took off on his run. And now we have him leading the way. And then he goes to the Chargers. He finally gets that starting job, and then this freak accident happens. And I mean, you would never imagine something like this happening. You get a punctured lung by your own team doctor, and now you're benched for the rest of the season, regardless of whenever you can come back. They've already announced Herbert's their starting quarterback for the rest of the year, as they should. I mean, he's really earned it. And if he's your future, you might as well start building off of him now. Yeah. And I think they really hit the lottery here with this pick in Herbert.
Yeah.
So I really like him. I think he's my offensive rookie of the year right now. Justin Jefferson is a great pick. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the first week looked like he was going to be it, but he's kind of fallen down. He had a great game tonight. I have to go back and look at this official stat line, but if I was going to pick one, I would go Herbert.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell too what's going to happen now with Le'Veon Bell out in KC, and Andy Reid was always one to, even before Bell got there, rotate through, and always frustrate fantasy managers as far as
you never knew, was it going to be Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, LaShawn McCoy,
Thompson? Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many of them. But so I think just from a volume standpoint, there, he's probably not going to get the touches he needs there. And it's a quarterback league, and as much as I would love to see a wide receiver get it, and I think years from now, looking back on it, if people continue to develop the way that they are, we might think like, how did Jefferson not win it? But it's a
Right.
quarterback league. I don't really see them giving it to, a wide receiver. It probably will be, whether it's Burrow or Herbert.
Now, if he has weeks like he had this past week, I mean, continuously, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. But that's going to be a hard one to really keep up with. Once people start figuring out he's going to be their new number one, they're going to tone in on him and slow him down a little bit. But I really like Justin Jefferson. He was my top wide receiver coming off the board, even over Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. I really loved what I seen out of him at LSU. And I mean, he doesn't drop the ball often. He finds ways to get open. He runs routes cleanly, and he's got the speed to beat you in the end too. So he's really the total package here at receiver. For him to fall that far, Minnesota hit the lottery there.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe one of these days we'll get to see what Rager is going to do on the field. But
maybe next year.
yeah, who knows? But anyway, so I mean, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us tonight there. But for those that are listening that want to either get in touch with you or learn more about your podcast or give it a listen, where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you there?
You can find me on Facebook at Sports Talk with King of the Hill, Ryan Hill. That is my Facebook page. Also, I do a lot of work with the Ohio Media School. So if you want to look up the Score on Air Network page, you will see a bunch of shows on there. I take part in the Red Flag every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12:30, while also helping out with Loganity on Tuesday nights from 5 to 6. So got a few shows in the works. Hoping to get Sports Talk with King of the Hill, Ryan Hill, off and running. Also have another one with a buddy of mine called Perfect 10 Sports that we're going to try and get running here soon and see where that leads us. So right now I'm on Facebook mostly. So check out those pages and give us a like, give us a share, follow.
Awesome. Well, lots of stuff in the works there. And like we were discussing before we hopped on air there, we're probably never going to have more time on our hands than now during good old shutdowns and quarantines, and God knows what else is going to come our way there in this lovely year that's been 2020 so far.
Yeah, the Roaring 20s came in and shut us all down, and they took our sports away for a while, but here we are.
Yeah.
Glad to have some sports back and being able to have some normalcy back in this world as much as possible.